everyone, I'm JD from Willowbound Journals, and this is a video that I filmed a very, very, very long time ago. It was part of a series I did where I was making some bulk princess journals. I checked the date, I filmed it before doing this voiceover, and it was from May last year. So all of these journals already, went up in my shop last year. They've all gone to their new homes, but I had these videos up my sleeve knowing that I would save them for a time when I wanted to just share something, and now is the time. So I'm going to be sharing about psychology in Seattle yet again. I absolutely love this podcast. They also have a YouTube channel, and I am a patron of theirs, and just recently also am a member of their YouTube channel, which they just started. So I am loving it. I was all over it. I'm like, yes, I'm there. Because I've talked about this before many times on my channel, just how I discovered them, why I love them, how they've helped me, and so much. I've gotten so much out of their channel. I've learned about attachment theory and systems theory and schema therapy in particular that have really impacted my life, and I've talked about those in some of the mental health videos that I shared this year, to go along with the mental health fundraiser that I'm doing all year long. But in this video, I want to sort of do a reaction or a response to two of the videos. I sort of mentioned this already in a previous video where I talked about how I discovered psychology in Seattle and why I love them. But they put up another video, and I just want to respond to that, but I feel like I need to go back to the original video to respond to that first, and just kind of process and share this sort of journey that I've been on with the whole podcast, with Kirk and Berto, the hosts, and with just my take on it. I'll share. So basically they had an episode that was titled something like Kirk and Berto Fight, and they've had some fights, arguments, debates quite often in previous episodes and in life that they mention, and so I'm kind of used to it, and while in the midst of it I'm a little bit on edge, I'm a little bit like, oh, a bit tense. I know that they are good friends and that they sort of resolve conflict, and they trust each other, that kind of thing, and so they talk about that too. They've come through a lot, and they say things like to the listeners, don't worry about us, we're all good, we're really close friends. Sometimes we debate on our show, and just don't worry, we're all good. So that, I guess, really did, I can see that, and I've been following them for over many years now. So it's like all good with me. So when I saw this episode, I'm like, yep, cool, let's listen to this. And when I read the comments in response to that video, Mama Bear came out. And I didn't even know I had a Mama Bear until I listened to Psychology in Seattle. And Mama Bear only comes out when people leave comments or send them emails, attacking them or saying bad things about them, calling them names. I get kind of protective, and I don't like seeing them hurting. I don't like, anyone. I don't like anyone being called names or anyone being hurt. So Mama Bear came out when these people commenting were, just, some of them were just came out with some outright nasty comments, name calling. But it was also the assumptions that were made that were just so wrong and just so horrible. And I think, this is me processing. I guess for me, I understood I felt like I understood where Berto was coming from, even though one of the the words that came out of the mouth were kind of saying, it doesn't matter how people take things, I don't care. I understood, well, you don't actually literally mean that. So I guess, yes, I can see how, of course, like new subscribers or new people to the channel would hear that comment and straight away be like, oh, what do you mean you don't care about people's feelings and things like that? But, you know, maybe I would have been the same in that same boat, but because I've followed them over multiple years now, when I heard that comment and through that conversation, how it sounded like what he was saying was, it doesn't matter how people take it. I can just say whatever I want, and it doesn't matter. I don't care how they take it, whatever. For me, in that moment, I guess what was happening in me was that I felt like I knew Berto well enough through the podcast that I could understand, yeah, he didn't literally mean that. There's other factors, there's context. It's within this conversation context as well. The train of thought, the line of thinking, yeah, he obviously, because I feel like I know that he cares about people, you know, from other stories he's shared and all this kind of stuff, that even though his words may have said that, I cannot see, obviously that's not true, that he genuinely thinks that or anything, or he genuinely doesn't care. Because clearly, from all of my podcast listening to the channel, he does care very, very, very much. But then, yeah, many of the comments were like, how dare you say that? Like, that you can't say things like that. Saying something like that is wrong. And then from there, jumping to all sorts of conclusions and making assumptions. And I don't know, for me, that just really, I'm trying to think, I'm trying to be like them and trying to figure out, hang on, what is happening in me? What emotion am I feeling? What is going on in me that I'm getting so worked up about it? And am I projecting? You know, is this not actually any issue to do with the people commenting and the situation? Has something happened in my life and that kind of thing? So interesting, so interesting. And I can go down that road, and I think I could come up with something that I could go back to that. Let me go back to this story first of all. So I was just getting so fired up, I guess, and Mama Bear coming out wanting to protect, and maybe that was me being triangulated between, you know, Berto, the public, and wanting to come in and comfort or help soothe pain or try and take the pain away. Anyway, so at the end of that episode, that original episode of Kirk and Berto fighting, how I process and how I deal with, you know, these strong emotions, I was just like a swirl of emotions. How I deal with that is I write until it's all out of me, and I've come at it at all the angles that I need to come at it, and I have got it all out of me. And so that's what I did for that. And then, yeah, I thought that was over. But then they released this next video where they kind of revisit that previous original video where they had a fight, and they ended up refighting about it. But what happened this time was that they explored, you know, what was going on in them during the fight, where they're coming from. They recognized where they could have done better, where they could have maybe communicated better, maybe used a better tone. And then they, you know, apologized, and they, you know, looked at themselves. There was lots of self-awareness. There was the apologies. There was then breakthroughs, these like epiphanies, and seeing them work this out in real time. You know, they're having this fight. It's escalating. And yes, I was getting a bit tense because I don't like seeing anyone attacked, feeling like they're attacked. And yeah, it was a little bit uncomfortable there, but Kirk reassured us at the start of the video that it has a good ending, you know, that they resolve things and they become closer by the end of it. And so I was, you know, going through this with them, and I love seeing it in real time as they work out this conflict, and as they have that reflection, and as they have that eventual grace for each other, and that humility and that vulnerability. And I don't know, I guess want to share that video and I'll link it down below in the description box. I don't tend to recommend specific videos. You know, I've recommended all the attachment deep dives, the schema therapy and systems theory, but never have I recommended like a single episode. But I am recommending this one because I think it is so valuable, so powerful, so useful, so helpful for anyone, because we're all going to deal with conflict in our lives. And some of us deal with it by running away, some of us deal with it by not getting close enough to even have a conflict, some of us deal with it by digging in, but some by, you know, going on the attack, going on the defense. We all get hurt, we all are hurt. And so what this video, many people left this in the comments too, saying it might be possibly the most powerful video they've ever done, just because of that way they model in real time conflict resolution and all those things. And what that does is when you see it with someone else, it then allows you to reflect on yourself and your own way you deal with conflict and your own way of dealing with relationships and that kind of thing. That's what I love. You know, we can learn by being taught, like by being told stuff, like this and this, or we can learn by seeing it in action. And it's often when we see it happening rather than it being told to us, that's when it can be the most powerful and have the most impact. So I use the example like on Psychology Settle. I do love that we get taught the theory, like all these different theories about psychology. I love that. I learn a lot from that. But what I learn most from is when they share their personal stories and they share about their journeys, because that's when I have that space to be like, oh, I see what it's like for them. Okay, what is it like for me? And even if I don't relate, that teaches me something about myself, because it's like, oh, I don't relate to that. Why don't I relate to that? Okay, that tells me something about myself. Interesting. So it's through, you know, seeing other people's stories, we get to see a person and then we can reflect on ourselves. And, you know, my favourite quote is, the unexamined life is not worth living. So I'm all about knowing yourself better and, you know, having that self-awareness. And yeah, anyway, this was the best video to see that. I guess there's been many videos where I have witnessed that already, but this one I feel like, yeah, just took it to another level. Another level. So I don't know, if you're dealing with conflict in your life, if you struggle with conflict, if there's people around you who they're struggling with conflict, I don't know, I just recommend this video to anyone. If this is sort of resonating with you, go check out the link. It's quite a long video, but if you're in it and you stick with it, it's pretty special and pretty amazing. And yeah, so many people in the comments were saying that, well, one, they appreciated them being so vulnerable and actually sharing that, because they shared, you know, their flaws, they shared where they were at fault, they shared their failings in this video, things that they, you know, weren't too proud of about themselves, so they could easily have just been like, nope, we're not sharing that. For fear of judgment, for fear of, you know, I don't know, cancelling the podcast or whatever, but they shared it. And the other thing that the people were commenting about was, oh, through watching this, it makes me now think about my own self and how I deal with conflict. And people saying things like, yeah, I'm going to approach this differently now, or I'm going to work with my partner on this or something, which is, for me, reading those comments, that's the true testament of how powerful the video was. That people are like, yeah, it really made me think about myself and really made me think about my own relationships, and now I want to do some digging, and now I want to see what I can do here, and there's some different things I can try. It's like, oh my gosh. I love hearing stories of when people's lives are changed, and I don't necessarily mean in your whole life in big ways changed. Little ways, a little change of mind, a change of perspective, that leads to perhaps one simple change in behavior. For me, I find them fascinating, so interesting. I want to know all about them. So if there's like a book that changed your life, a movie that changed your life, a song that changed your life, I love that. It might not have changed your life in this big way, but in just changing a simple mindset or attitude or something. My favorite thing in life, I've said this before too, is when my perspective can be changed. It's like a magical moment. It's so good. Anyway, so to see this video have this impact on others, so good. Maybe I'll get back to that too, but I just want to talk about how I found this video kind of validating for my own self as well, because that thing that I was getting most upset about in the original video of people making assumptions and misunderstanding Birdo, and that leading to them calling him names and saying mean things, it was the misunderstanding for me that really, I guess, affected me. I was just like, people, come on. Why are you misunderstanding this? And again, I have to, okay, I understand if you're fresh to the channel and that's what you hear, you're going to take that at face value. I get it. But there's just part of me like, can't people be more understanding? Like, obviously he didn't mean that. Obviously he didn't literally mean he doesn't care what people think or how people feel. And I don't know, I guess that was the main crux of it, was just people not understanding. Anyway, so Birdo mentioned in this second follow-up video that he mentioned somewhere that he thought that people would understand what he was getting at. And I was like, yes, that's me, Birdo. I felt like I was the only one reading those comments that got it. That yes, words came out of the mouth that said this one thing, but I understood, no, that's not literally what you meant. And I was like, am I like, yeah, I just felt like I was the only one, and I was so frustrated that no one else saw it that way. And then at least when Birdo was saying, I thought that the listeners would understand where I was coming from, I'm like, yes, Birdo, I understand. I was with you. And I don't know, for me that felt validating to me in a really weird way. Anyway, so then that makes me reflect on myself. And like, this is like how they've modeled it to me, because especially Birdo, as he was walking through this, conflict resolution, he was thinking about why he would like dig in with an argument, and he was talking about his father and how he was that way, and he thought he had to die on a hill winning arguments, and that there was no other option. You just have to keep going and going and going. There's no other option type thing. And it was really cool seeing him work that out in real time, and like, oh, there is another option. You don't actually have to die on that hill. And other revelations and epiphanies coming out as well. And one of those was, now I'm going on a tangent, but I'll get back, about how when he was knuckling down and digging in with the argument, initially it was because of this feeling of not being enough, and his journey of growth, not being, I guess, validated, and this idea that someone else was telling him what to do and all this stuff, and they brought in previous arguments they've had, previous fights and previous things and previous stories that all tie into this, like experiences and upbringing and journeys and all this. And just I'll say up front here too, I might be getting all of this wrong. This is just my words interpreting this, but go listen to the podcast for actually what happened and what they said. But yeah, that's so fascinating. When there was this conflict, the original point of it, Kirk felt hurt because he felt like he wasn't listened to and, didn't get the response that he wanted. He was trying to help and it didn't go well, and then using a tone that wasn't great, and then Birdo here, then feeling like hurt and not good enough, and perhaps maybe like made to feel inferior through that comment and the tone of that comment. And when people are hurt, the defensiveness comes and it can escalate the conflict. And they came to this really cool idea from that Birdo, he comes across as like he can't get hurt, that things just roll off him, and it's not about emotions, it's about the argument, like the details of the argument. But to acknowledge that, oh yeah, he does get hurt, he can do that, he is allowed to acknowledge that yes, he does get hurt, and he's allowed to say that and say, you hurt me. He's allowed to say that, which is powerful, right? To be able to say, I've been hurt and you were the one who hurt me. Like, I don't know, that resonated with me too, because often we try to hide our pain or deny our pain. We don't even know we're being hurt, either because, we don't want to, I don't know, speaking for myself, we don't want to make the other person feel bad because we've been hurt. Like, you hurt me, but I'm not going to tell you you hurt me because I don't want you to feel bad that you hurt me. Which goes to that idea of like, well, I can't be hurt and I can't let people know they've hurt me because that's just, I can't be hurt. So that, I don't know, that helped me to reflect on that too. And I saw some similarities there. And then I think I've gone way off track here. Where was I going with all of this? Yes, okay, so let's go back to that other idea of how I felt so validated in that moment where Berto mentioned how he thought the listeners would understand. And I was like, yes, that's me. Okay, so this ties into, let me now try to model what they did through my conflict with the listeners who commented on the original video saying nasty things about Berto. And me, I guess I was in a way in conflict with those commenters, and I was upset. I guess I was hurt by their comments because, I felt like they were attacking Berto and hurting him, which I didn't want. But what really, I guess, affected me was that they misunderstood. Right? You can tell in my voice. And I was just like, can't people be smarter about this? And I guess it's, can't people see things the way I see things, through eyes of understanding, which I know sounds so like, well, that's a bit arrogant or egotistical. But ever since I was a kid, right, I have always had this idea, this stance, I don't know, this perspective of understanding is key. Understanding is the most important thing in the world. When people ask that question, if you could change the world in one way, what would it be? I would always say that people would be able to perfectly understand each other. For me, I thought that would fix everything. Getting older, I realized that doesn't actually fix everything. There's other things at play that cause harm besides a lack of understanding. But, my child brain thought that if people just could understand each other, then we wouldn't try to attack people and be defensive. I don't know. That was just my brain. Anyways, it's all to say that my whole life, even to this day, understanding is something that is very, very important to me, something I value very, very much, and I guess is something essential to my being, right? And so when I see people misunderstanding, I don't know, maybe it feels like an offense to myself. And I don't know, I maybe need to explore this more and figure out what is going on inside of me that I have this reaction. Because yes, there is part of me that can see where they're coming from, but I was just getting very, like indignant and very like, what? I don't get how they could misinterpret this so much and then go on these wild assumptions, which were just horrid, some of them. Anyway, and then the other side of it was, okay, yes, maybe there was lack of understanding, fine. We don't always understand things perfectly. And for the ones who, especially, I give most of the grace to the people who were first-time listeners, for example, the new listeners. Okay, if you took it at face value, then yes, I can see that. There's something that riles up in me against that though, and be like, oh, but really, you believe that? You actually believe he doesn't care? Like, no. Anyway, put that aside. There is a part of my brain that does understand. If you're a new listener, you would take that at face value and think that he was a terrible person. I get that. But still, don't leave nasty comments. So I guess another value of mine is, don't hurt people. Even if you don't agree with someone, doesn't mean you get to call them a name. Doesn't mean you get to, I don't know. I think, and I'm not a saint. I have hurt people. I will hurt people, unintentionally multiple times, and unfortunately intentionally too sometimes, which is horrid. And I have to learn to myself learn to apologize, learn to be vulnerable and humble, learn to face my own flaws and try to do better and all that kind of stuff. Where am I going with this? But that's my value though. I care about that, so that when I do hurt people, I'm not proud of myself. I am ashamed of myself for that, right? And I want to work on that to get better at that. So when I see people just flippantly like calling people names and attacking people and making wild accusations and horrible assumptions, I'm like, what? Why are you... No! Like, can't we all just be kind? Can't we... Yes, it's okay if we don't agree with people, but can't we still speak kindly to each other? And so that's another thing for me, I guess, that impacted me. So those two things, I very much value understanding, try to be understanding, and and then the other side of just, we'll still, even if we don't understand, at the base, speak with love and kindness. And that goes with the conflict too. I know it's hard in the moment. When we feel hurt, we get defensive. But speak with love. So I guess that goes to the tone that Kirk was using. The tone can sometimes, people have mentioned in the comments that Kirk can sometimes come across as bullying of Birdo, cutting him off and accusing him of things and stuff like that, and attacking him. Which Kirk has put his hand up and said, yes, I do that sometimes, and I'm not proud of it. Which, right there, there's strength in that, and humility, and that's wonderful, a wonderful, beautiful thing. And I wanted to do the same thing. I have my own flaws and things I don't do great either, that I'm not proud of, and I want to, be like Kirk, put my hand up and say, yeah, I admit that, I did that, it wasn't my finest moment, I want to do better next time. So yeah, in those moments where Kirk maybe is on that kind of, that tone, bullying kind of thing, I'm like, oh, we could speak with love right now. And he mentioned that too, like, so to speak, about I could have clarified, I could have, asked a question, or instead of just going on the attack kind of thing. And like, yeah, we can all, even when we're hurt, even when we're not understood, we can try to speak with kindness, with a kind tone, and with love. And I get it, yes. I am very much a fan of Kirk and Birdo, so even though they both have their flaws, I don't agree with everything that they say or do, I still think they're wonderful people. That's like anything, right? Our friends aren't perfect people, our family aren't perfect people, but we still love them, we still care about them, we still believe in them, we still support them. So yes, Kirk and Birdo have flaws that we see on their podcast, and they have things that I don't agree with, but man, I still will say I support them, and I am with them. We don't have to throw everything out just because of, I don't know. There's nuances, people are complex, and I hope people give me the same grace. I've been on YouTube for a while, and sometimes I've said one thing or done something, and a complete stranger will email me attacking me about something, and I'm just like, what's happening? I don't know what's going on. I'm so sorry. And my nature by default is I will always blame myself. So if someone's attacking me, I will roll over and just be like, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person. I'm so bad. So anyway, I've had to get a bit of a thicker skin with that. I don't know where I was going with that either. Just give people grace is the main thing as well. We're all going to say stupid things at times. We're all going to not explain ourselves very well. So that was what Berto was saying. One of his faults in the conflict was that he should have clarified himself as well. He was trying to make a point, and he was, going off in different examples that maybe weren't the best. Again, I could see where it's coming from, and I could still see, this isn't the greatest way to do it, but I can see where you're coming from, and I'm with you. And grace, and giving people grace, understanding where they're coming from, even though their words maybe aren't clear enough. I don't know, can we all just give people grace, speak kindly to each other, and try our best to understand? So that was one of the other things when Berta was saying that, talking about in the original video, I understood that there was context to what he was saying, that there was something I was obviously missing. I assumed there was something I was missing that would make what he was saying make sense. I didn't assume that he was a bad person. I didn't assume that he didn't care. I assumed that I was missing something that made it seem like that. Does that make sense? I can't even explain myself very well. But that's another thing. Can we all just assume, and they mentioned this in the episode too, like, assume that I'm wrong. If I'm in a fight, if I'm in a conflict, if someone's attacking me, my first position should be, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong. Rather than, no. I might not be wrong, but let's just make room for that, rather than lock down, dig in, attack, or whatever. Again, I give every person grace who doesn't do that in the moment, because we're all human, right? And, I'm talking about all of this grace and understanding, how it's a value of mine, but I'll put my hand up and admit as well, sometimes I don't even give grace. Sometimes I don't understand, and that is my hypocritical humanness. And I want to do better at that. That's not me going, yeah, that's just the way it is, moving on. That's me going, yeah, and that's not good. And I need to address that. And I needed to face that and admit it and apologize and try to do better and work out how I can get better at that. So, I don't know if this video is, if anyone's even listening, first of all. Second of all, if this is coherent, if this makes sense. But I hope that, I just wanted to put the voiceover thing on, and I just wanted to see where this went. In the way that Psychology in Seattle, their episode where they're having this re-escalation of a fight, like a refight, and then working through it in real time. It was like nothing was scripted, it was happening, and I was in it and with it, and got so much out of it, and they got so much out of it. But the thing is, you had to push in it, you had to push through, you had to go there. And so I thought, yeah, I could write a script, which is what I've done in the past when I want to share about things that Psychology in Seattle have taught me. But I thought I would do something a bit more scary, a bit more vulnerable, and speak off the cuff, stream of consciousness style. And I can, one reason why I don't like doing that in this kind of format, in this context, is because of, I could say something so stupid that I don't mean. It's because it's just flown out of my mouth and I haven't thought it through. And I hope that no one is hurt. I hope that no one misunderstands me. I hope that no one is offended by what I say. But I want to model what they modeled through their video and go there. And so I'm going to put this video up, and hope that through me sharing this and me processing, and through me examining my own self and like, okay, why did I react that way? What was it about me? Why was I hurt by these people commenting about Berto? And why was I so riled up? And why was I, even angry? I don't usually get angry, or I don't let myself get angry. And that's one thing I kind of need to work on too. My journey is to say to myself, it's okay to be angry, because I would always see myself as a bad person if I got angry. But anger is actually an okay emotion. It tells you when your boundaries have been crossed. And me used to not have boundaries ever. That kind of same thing of, oh, I can never be hurt. I can never be angry. I can't even have emotions. This was me, younger me. So I've come a long way. But I don't know. I hope that through me sharing this, someone else out there may get something from this that helps you reflect on yourself in a helpful way, not in a condemning way, not in a way that makes you feel bad. Never. I never wanted to make anyone ever feel bad or shamed or condemned. I only want people to, I do want to challenge people. There's part of me that wants to teach people. I want to inspire. I want to encourage. I want to comfort. But as I'm a person who loves to have my perspective changed, I love to be challenged, I then want to give that to other people. And I guess I'm hoping that happens with this video. Don't know if it will, but feel free to leave a comment or email me if this has helped you in any way reflect on your own self in a positive way. So yeah, I feel like it's been good for me, which is why I'm sharing this. I've gone on a whole journey with this, a whole roller coaster of emotions. I've just needed to process it myself. And I do that, through writing or talking about it right now. It's been good to look at myself and look at, well, why, okay, I've been hurt. It's really weird. And part of me feels like that's hard to say, that I've been hurt. Especially when it's like faceless people commenting who have hurt me in this really weird way. And that, this underlying thing of understanding and how I get insulted, I feel insulted and I feel offended when other people don't understand what I understand. And I need to maybe look at that a bit more, because I know how arrogant that sounds. It's like, what is that about me? Like, what? And there's probably a part of me that does think, well, can't people think the way I do? Can't people, this sounds terrible, but like be as smart as I am, which obviously I'm not the smartest person in the world. I am quite foolish a lot of the time. But, these are thoughts in my head, and not proud of them, not accurate necessarily. But we all have thoughts, and it's okay, and we can all still care about each other and support each other with all of our amazing flaws, right? It's about how we respond to them. It's about how we deal with them. We can all admit them and be kind and gracious to each other when we admit our flaws and apologize for them. So I apologize for my flaws, and I'm going to be looking at that. Another thing I was interested about, and not just another thought, they did apologize and they did hug and they cried but I was interested if there would be a place for them to actually say, I forgive you, or something like that. I don't know, Kirk did a whole series on apologies and what makes an effective apology. So maybe he can like respond to his own video and assess his own apology and Berto's apology and the forgiveness. I don't know if you have to vocalize I forgive you, or if that's obviously implied because they hugged and now they're closer than ever, of course. So, but I was just interested how actually saying, not just saying I apologize, but actually saying I forgive you, maybe that might have had an impact, like an emotional impact. Hearing that, just as it can have an emotional impact saying I am hurt and you hurt me, and then to have that I forgive you and I apologize. I don't know, just another thought. Oh, and one other thought. I think, yeah, mentioning how I got so upset by the comments attacking Birdo. I was also upset by how he had to reply back to them. I was just like, no, he shouldn't have to do that. And I wanted to sort of, I don't know, I wish that he didn't have to do that. I wish I could have done something, again, maybe this is me being triangulated, that he wouldn't have had to do that or felt a need to reply and, I don't know, explain himself and explain what he actually meant. Because I knew, like, I was like, to me, you don't have to explain anything. I get it. I get what you're trying to say. And even if I don't get what you're trying to say, I understand you care about people. And you care about how people feel. And I was so upset that, one, he got these comments, and two, that then he had to take up this time and his energy to respond to them. And I was like, oh, what a waste of time. This could have all been avoided if people just understood. I mean, yes, okay, it could have all been avoided as well if maybe if Birdo worded it explained himself better, which again, I believe he mentioned that himself on the second video. But like, I was fine with it. It's like, I guess that was the thing. Like, if I'm fine with it, can't other people be fine with it? It's like, oh no. And I guess the other thing that helped me, and maybe helped me to look at myself, was Kirk's response when he, in the second follow-up video, when he was saying, like, this doesn't line up with how I see you, Birdo, you know, and for me to see Kirk kind of wrestle with that idea, it made me go, okay, Kirk actually does know Birdo, and if he's wrestling with this idea and trying to clarify, like, wait, what are you saying, Birdo? You can't possibly mean that. Whereas me coming, just watching, listening, I'm like, well, of course he doesn't mean that. That's a given. Okay. So, but for me, yes, that was a given for me. That doesn't mean it's a given for other people. And so, Kirk, thank you, I have to say, because him saying that was like, okay, right, if Kirk is saying he didn't get it, he didn't understand, that's how it came across to me, what Birdo was, you know, all that mess, that conflict. I was like, oh, okay, well, if he didn't get it, then the listeners aren't going to get it. A lot of them are not going to get it either. And so that's where I have to understand where they're coming from, see it through their eyes, and give them grace for how they are seeing things. So here I'm, and it's easy to obviously care about people you care about rather than faceless strangers. So having Kirk say it, yes, I understand that probably was helpful in me being like, oh, okay, I really need to, again, that was that change of perspective. It's like, oh, you showed me something new. I have to see myself differently. I have to see other people differently. Okay, maybe I was wrong. Okay, yes, I had my way of seeing it, but other people's way of seeing it was also valid. The way Kirk took it was valid. The way people took it in the comments, while their nasty comments weren't right, their people can take things how they can, right? And that's how it is. Yes. See, this is me thinking out loud and continuing to process. Here we go. Me getting my own little epiphanies. And yeah, because there is that one part of my brain that is like, yes, of course, people can see things the way they do. But there's this other part of me that is like, can't they just see it the way I do? And yeah, I don't know. It's like, okay, maybe we've got to address that a little bit. Or a lot. So that was something that helped me. But yeah, I was just, in the original video, upset that Birdo would even have to take the time and do that. And it's like, oh, I don't know. Because I care about Kirk and Birdo. I care about their feelings. I don't like seeing them hurt or upset or attacked by anyone. But yeah, it was really cool seeing these moments of like, yeah, I can say when I've been hurt, and I can say when you've hurt me, and I see why I do this, and this is why I did that, and this is how I can change, and this is, yeah, I love it. And hopefully now I can kind of put some things in place myself and do some further reflection, and yeah, it just keeps on going. the more you dig in terms of following this train of thought, and really exploring your own emotions and background and all that. And another thought I had was why this understanding thing is such a big thing for me. Perhaps, yes, when I was growing up, I felt like I wasn't understood, and so that's why maybe it's such a big deal for me when I see other people not understood, because it feels like maybe a reminder that of when I haven't been understood. Maybe it's that. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I need to look more into that kind of stuff as well. Find out these terms. Is it like projection, projective identification? I don't know. There's another one, like internalization. I think there's another one I'm thinking of. It's not coming to me at the moment. But yeah, anyway, yeah, I love being able to see these things and find out these things, and it would never have happened without, or it may never have happened, at least not this time, without watching that video. So I don't know, I feel like I want to keep exploring this. I love finding out new things about yourself. It's great. Okay, but I'm going to end it there because this is like the longest video I've ever published. I don't know if that's true, but I hope you got something out of this. If this has resonated with you at all, go check out that video, please. I want every single person in the world to check out that video, because we all struggle with conflict, with relationships, with ourselves, with our own flaws, with our humanness. And yeah, I think there's just so much power and benefit in this video. So go check it out. I hope you love it. Well, I hope you get a lot out of it anyway. You might not love seeing two people fighting, but I hope it really helps to self-reflect and know yourself more and improve your relationships and conflict resolution. Okay, guys, I need to stop talking. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys. A big thank you to my beautiful patrons who supported me in June. I could not do this without you, so thank you so much for helping me do this channel and be a full-time creative. If you would like to become a patron, there is a link to my Patreon down below in the description box, where you get access to extra videos and printables and mail and journals, depending on what tier that you would like to support me at. You can also check my journaling courses down below in the description box, and all the different places to find me there too.